Okay.
What? No, I'm sorry. That's my bad. It was I fucking hit the wrong button on my controller. My fucking Twitch chat disappeared.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. What's up? What's up? Real MVPs. Ricky Widmer here, and welcome into another edition of MVP Games Live, our daily games news talk show here on twitch.tv/MVPvids and MVP Entertainment on YouTube. I am here, as I always am, with my beautiful co-host, Soapy Muffin.
Hey guys.
Soapy, how you doing today? You told me before the stream that you might have gotten rained on a little bit at work today.
Yeah, just a little bit. It's well, it wasn't super fun. Let alone the fact that some of the dogs like pull really hard when you're walking them.
Some dogs do that. My golden retriever does that all the time, to where like he'll try to fucking pull your arm out of its socket.
Yeah, because the only thing that sucked with that was like there were puddles forming, and one of them tried to pull me in the puddle. I'm like, you pull me in this puddle. I ain't gonna say I'm Michael Vick or anything, but something may happen.
Not gonna be Jack Black from Anchorman, I hope.
Yeah.
Just punting dogs. But we got a jam-packed show. Hope you're in a good mood. I'm in a good mood. I hope you guys are in a good mood. We're going to be talking about some different things, a little slower news day today, leading off the show, talking a little bit about E3 with comments made by Geoff. I think it's Geoff Knightley. I keep saying Kingsley. It's Geoff Knightley from the Game Awards. But before we get into everything, let's get housekeeping out of the way. If you missed it yesterday, we talked about Gamescom. MVP Entertainment, you can now see our complete wrap-up of Gamescom 2020 that happened yesterday on August 27th. Also, join the Discord for MVP if you love talking games, movies, sports, anything. All of the real MVPs can talk in our Discord. YouTube, it's right down below in the description. Just got to take that link and get the invite. See, my dogs are even like, hey, can we get into the Discord? And it's like, no, buddy, you can't. You don't have opposable thumbs to text. But also, if you're on Twitch, !Discord gets you the link to join the Discord. Go ahead and do that today. Also, patreon.com/nope, that's the old one. Patreon.com/MVPvids is how you help support us. You can also help support us by throwing us a Twitch sub or a Prime Gaming sub as well. Twitch subs also get these same rewards as our bronze tiered patrons at patreon.com. And thank you to our Patreon producers, Pat Hill and PhillyShawn. These will also be on podcast services soon. Thank you for your patience. We are waiting for them to get approved. But Soapy, that's everything with housekeeping. Let's start the show with a little E3 news. And this is from Brian Barnett, if I can read names correctly, from IGN. This is from their show IGN Unfiltered. Geoff Knightley was on, and he talked to Ryan McCaffrey, and here's what it says. Ryan McCaffrey sat down with Geoff Knightley to discuss a wide range of topics in the latest episode of IGN Unfiltered, including his friendship with Kojima, Knightley's storied history with award shows, the Xbox Series X and PS5, what the Game Awards will look like, and much more. And we're kind of looking at that much more because when asked what he wanted E3 to come back following the cancellation this year, here's what he said. I love E3. I've been to every E3, and it really broke my heart when I decided not to do it this year before it got canceled. My whole thing with E3 is that it really needs to evolve as a concept. You'll find no bigger fan of what E3 represents than me, and part of the reason I kind of broke up with what E3 was going to do this year is I did not believe that it was going to represent the industry in the right way and in the progressive way that it needed to be. That was hard for me, but I kind of had to take a stand for that. Soapy, he said a little bit more. I'm not going to go into it right now. I'm going to ask you what your thoughts is. When it comes to E3, do you agree with Knightley where does E3 need to kind of evolve from what we are currently getting year after year?
Yeah, I think it does, and the reason why is because since every other game developer and every other studio and stuff like that, like Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like hell, Square Enix is probably at some point gonna just make an entire convention about their Final Fantasy games they're making.
Yeah.
Like it's right now, it almost just feels like, what's the purpose of going to E3?
Mm-hmm.
While it could just be Microsoft, just like, no, we don't want to go to E3. We'll just have our own convention.
Mm-hmm.
So I think something needs to change with E3, but like I can't exactly put my finger on what it should be
Mm-hmm.
because like I almost kind of want to say E3 could kind of become like a Comic-Con esque thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole thing is that you don't want to tread too far into Comic-Con's territory because then at
Well,
that point it's like, okay, why don't I just go to Comic-Con?
it kind of is almost a Comic-Con thing. You know what I'm saying? Where
Yeah,
like you have to go to E3, you have the different panels, you get to try out the games, and like that's fine. If you want to still have that, like if you still want to have that access, you can go ahead and have that access. But the one thing that I was thinking of is how does E3 evolve? And the thing that I thought of was you bring up a great point. State of plays, Xbox showcases, Nintendo Directs, all of the kind of main players. Sony was pretty much, I think, the first one because it was a big deal when Sony said we're not going to E3. We're going to have our own thing, and now they're doing these state of plays. Is it used to be when E3 rolls around, that's when we hear about these big releases. But as Knightley said, the game industry is evolving where, and it's kind of like us as a culture are evolving as well, where because of the news cycle being 24/7, because of social media, mainly Twitter in this sense, where boom, we're kind of actively keeping up. Like for right now, I can open up my Twitter, and this will obviously be different in about a couple hours. But like right now, I can look. Oh, Jim Carrey's tweeting. Adam Sandler is trending. You have basically Miami Braun is trending right now. Hashtag delete Facebook. Superbad. New Mutants. Dijakovic. Like different things that in an hour, new things will come up. And it's, like I said, that 24-hour news cycle to where I almost look at what we talked about, was it 2 days ago? With the, no, 3 days, because we didn't do the show yesterday. So it was on Tuesday where we talked about DC Fandom. And when I was watching DC Fandom, it was interesting because, like I said to Dave when he was like, oh, well, how has it been? Is I'm like, it kind of feels like I'm at Comic-Con. The only difference is I'm at my desk. I'm at my desk. I'm not in a convention hall to where if there was a panel that I wasn't jiving with, I could go get something to eat from my kitchen. I could go do something else. I'm going to kind of mute that and kind of watch this on my other screen, even if it's just something that small. And to me, I feel like E3 needs to develop a online presence, kind of like what we've seen with the state of plays, the showcases, and the directs, but they could do it in a way DC Fandom did, because it was an entire day of DC announcements, but it was completely virtual. And I'm not saying they have to do the green screen thing where there's no crowd. Like eventually when COVID's over, you could do it from the hall if you want to, but like that to me is so important that I think there needs to be an online aspect to it, because that is where we're at now. We're not waiting for, hey, we're going to wait for it to get announced at Comic-Con. People there get to see it first. Then I wait for it to go on IGN. It's like, no, state of play, boom, here's an hour. Here's everything you're going to see. And then boom, we get exactly what we want.
yeah, and especially I feel like obviously like conventions like Comic-Con and stuff like that are like major exceptions, but like I almost just feel like we as like a gaming community almost don't need E3 anymore.
No, you're right. We don't. Why do we? Like, that's the question of like, what do you think E3 brings to the table anymore?
Okay.
I disconnected. That was me. So
Nice.
basically, I went on your point of what you said about E3, and I basically asked the question of, do we need E3 anymore?
Okay. Yeah, I E3 is such a weird and needing E3 is such a weird point now. Cause like I never thought as a person who played video games that I'd ever be in a conversation of where like, do we actually need E3 anymore? And I think it brings such a challenging point because like we brought up, it's state of plays are a thing. Like every game company basically releases their own version of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say like we still need it because like it's kind of still that unifying thing for like gamers, but at the same time it's also why would I want to watch E3 where like two games that I've or like let's say like 15 games get announced at E3, which would be pretty fucking eventful.
Yeah.
We've almost 100% seen every one of those games before E3.
No, you're right. And I think the showcases and the state of plays and the directs were the first in that of like Xbox, Sony, Nintendo saying, we don't have to wait for you. We can just do it on our own virtually whenever we seem ready to kind of have at least an hour of things that we want to go ahead and announce at any time of the year.
Yeah, and I almost think, and this is going to probably sound really stupid, and obviously this is more just me spitballing the idea off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I was almost thinking have multiple E3s throughout the year.
Okay.
So, like for instance, there's like the 4 quarters. It's like you have one either at the beginning of the first quarter, at the end of the or at the beginning of the first, or at the end of the first.
Mm-hmm.
That one at the end of the second, one at the end of the third, and one at the end of the fourth. So I think with doing that, there's 4 a year. Like obviously, you know, companies like Sony and Microsoft, they're still going to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Like if they still want to have state of plays and stuff like that, they'll do whatever they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But like I think having more than one E3 a year makes it so it's like, okay, like let's say a game wasn't ready to be shown at E3 this year, but like it's expected to be finished later on in the year. Boom, you have another E3 to show it off at.
Mm-hmm. And
kind of like
I don't mean to cut you off, but there's a part of me with that feels like, would that step on the toes of the showcases, the state of plays, the directs, or even like the Game Awards, where it's a different kind of presentation, but we still get trailers and things and announcements during the Game Awards?
I mean, my idea, it's with the multiple E3s in the year, it's trying to eliminate the need for like game showcases and state of plays. Because I think the reason why we have so many of them is because there's only just one day or like one weekend of E3. And it's like, okay, like if I have a game coming out in like February and let's say like the game just gets to the point of like, okay, we could show it off like a month after E3, the game's not going to get the same hype as like, oh, I saw this at E3. Like I think that's why having showcases and state of plays has become a thing over it's like, okay, this game wasn't ready for E3, but now it is, and we're not waiting a whole year to release it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think...
Go ahead. I'm not going to cut you off.
Oh no, I was just going to say that I think it spirals into a situation of where it's, like I was saying, multiple E3s, I think, clears that issue up. And also with the point of it stepping on the toes of the Game Awards, I don't really think it steps on the toes that much, because then, for instance, like the E3 after that could just be really uneventful. Like, and obviously, you know, and like I know that sounds like really shitty that like, oh, there would be one E3 a year that's uneventful. It happens now, and we're all fine with E3, so why get butthurt? Because, for instance, we could just see the same games again, which I know sounds boring.
Yeah, I mean,
but like,
to me, it's one of those things, and like I said, I bring up the Sony state of play thing because Sony was the first one to basically say, fuck it, we're not going to E3 this year. And this was like, what, 2 years ago, I want to say? I think it was 2018 E3, where can you make it to where it's like, okay, we're still going to have E3, it's going to be more of a digital focus. and you guys can still have your state of plays and your showcases, but like E3 is the place where you have the big announcements. This is the one where, and I know like it also plays into, well, if we're ready in December, I'm not waiting all the way till E3 to announce it. I'll have a state of play in December. But Knightley also said this. He said, E3 really matters to me. I'm hopeful that E3 finds a way to evolve, and I haven't really talked a lot about this, but I put a lot of ideas in front of the ESA, the Entertainment Software Association, which owns and operates E3, on how I wanted to see E3 evolve. And a lot of my ideas were very digital focused, a global focused. It just didn't seem like they were ready to take the leap. And I understand, but it's a legacy business of a trade show that has to evolve into something new. And I wonder, this is kind of the last thing I'll kind of breach out about, is I wonder if it's just a digital focus at all. Like E3, I remember watching the one with Dave where we watched we had Microsoft, you had Bethesda, you have all these big game companies. Square Enix had one, PlayStation used to have theirs. And I wonder if instead of doing that, like how they used to, they could do it more of like how I would do it, is more of like the DC Fandom way, where now DC Fandom only did one. You could technically do 3 or 4 days of this, where it's basically, hey, we're going to have 4 days of online content, where basically it's the same thing as DC Fandom. The stream starts at it started at 10 o'clock my time, and it went all the way until like, I think it ended at 8 o'clock my time. And then after that, it just replayed itself. And it, like, you can map it out to where it ends at a time to where then it just repeats after that. And then it gets to 10 o'clock the next day. Boom, the next day starts. And you could still have your trade show for like hey, you want to come and try different things in person and stuff, and have different panels that way, kind of like Comic-Con does. And you can do that without stepping on Comic-Con's shoes, because gaming is a different atmosphere than comic books and stuff. Like, they're related, but it's different. But for the presentations, you can have basically, you start at 10 a.m. Central Time on a Thursday, and basically you have this stream running all the way from Thursday to Sunday. And it's basically a bunch of presentations of game trailers, developers talking about games. Like, you have these different things so that I don't have to feel like, hey, I have to go to E3 to experience it. I can watch the presentation online, and there's that digital free part of it that kind of brings everyone in. But hey, we still have stuff at E3 to where if you want to come, buy a ticket, experience it that way, you still can.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I think we're going to see a lot of conventions start doing that. Like, obviously, Comic-Con, I think, is going to be the major exception.
Yeah. Mostly
just because Comic-Con, people wait outside for days outside of the conventions.
They have a whole cosplay thing, too, of, like, there's a cosplay element to Comic-Cons where it's just, you don't get that kind of an experience being virtual. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think, and that's the thing, I think E3, I'm smart. E3. Yeah, I think E3 really needs to kind of, I don't want to say get with the times, because I don't want to sound like I'm just being that kid, like, oh, you're a boomer, old man.
Don't want to
sound boomer.
Like the uber boomer 19-year-old.
Yeah, like, I don't want to basically just be the guy who calls everything a boomer, but like at the same time, it's right now, I think it's a lot of conventions and like stuff like that need to understand there are people who don't want to go because either they can't afford to, like if they do try to go, the tickets may already be sold out.
Yeah.
Like, I think they should more, like, I don't want to say cater to the people who don't want to actually physically go, because obviously have stuff that is exclusive for people who go.
Yeah. But like, it doesn't gate the people who I live in a different country and I can't make it there. I don't have the funds to go there. It still gives you that experience of being at E3 for the panels while having stuff exclusive that's more hands-on oriented for the people that actually come to the trade show part of it.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think of things that, like, because obviously, like you said, like, you can have panels. Obviously, I would probably say, like, you could have it that, like, the people who are physically there, like, get an extra hour on the panel or something like that.
Yeah.
And, like, obviously, like, give incentive for people to go there, because obviously your main moneymaker is people going.
Yes. Well, and
because unless you charge for the live streams, and even at that, that's just kind of a chode thing to do, because people are going to find ways around paying.
Yeah, I wouldn't charge for it, but like what you can do is, like, so I watch Kind of Funny. They're one of the guys that I like to watch when it comes to gaming and stuff. They were on at E3, and like there was a little stage, and they were live at E3. And you could even do that where it's like, well, if you're live, you get to like see the live panels we do live. Some of them might be just virtual, but we're still going to have live panels. It's just going to be streamed now to everybody. But yeah, you get to also get that sense of I get to try the games. I get to maybe hear people talk about games that are different, kind of like the I'm trying to think, like maybe here, because some of the like there are some Comic-Con panels that I've gone to where it's like, oh, I'm gonna go check that out, and it's like, oh shit, I didn't expect that being a fucking good panel. And it's something that, like, one was like how to make your own podcast or something, or one was about Batman, and it's like you can do those individual ones for people that actually go, and that's different than somebody who's like, hey, I just want to see what games are coming out. And that's what basically the live stream could be for.
Yeah. And that's something that I think when E3 starts to do that, like, obviously, once again, I'm still pretty partial to my idea of like multiple E3s throughout the year. Mm-hmm. Obviously, that probably is going to cost a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could have one physical and then the other one, like, one could be like, hey, this is just a virtual E3.
Well, no, I think what I was mostly going for is like you have 4 physical E3s with the online aspect. And like, for instance, like you can put it in places that are like really popular. Like, for instance, like one of them you have in Los Angeles, one you have in New York. I'd even say one of them could be international.
True.
Like, because for instance, in Europe, yeah, like in London, Paris, Berlin,
Fuck it, even
I don't know any
Toronto.
other really big cities there.
Even like a Toronto, have it in Canada.
Yeah.
Could you imagine like E3 in Tokyo?
That'd be fun.
Throwing it out there, like you've got JRPG games, like I mean, you have Japanese made games, like you could have it even in Tokyo, Japan.
Yeah. So I think I'd say 2 of them in America, 1 in Europe, or at least like a place outside of America, and then you could have 1 in Canada.
Yeah.
Or something. I would say in South or Central America, but it's just I don't know if they have a city who can handle something like that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that as a shot or anything to any Central or South American cities. It's just I think the only one that's like big enough to possibly do is like Rio de Janeiro.
That's what I was going to
say.
say.
And even at that, I don't know if Rio de Janeiro could handle that still.
Yeah, and
because like the cities were thrown out were like mega cities basically.
Yeah, and it all depends on the culture of the city. Like the World Cup works in Rio de Janeiro because soccer is huge down there. Is gaming going to have the same impact in Rio de Janeiro that soccer does or football does?
Yeah. So I think doing something like that, then obviously having the online access, and even that, try your hardest to make every E3 feel special.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, like the ones in Japan, you can focus more on Japanese games.
Yep.
Like, obviously, you know, some people would be like, I don't want to look at Japanese games. Like, you'd get the people like that.
But at the same
time, obviously,
you're the thing that's going into that, then you're making most of your money off of people who are going. And if you're having it in, I'm not saying like Japan just wants to see like JRPGs and stuff, but having it more catered to Japanese-styled games. Like, you can have a mix, but have it more catered to that. Might be something that gets more people in the doors rather than watching virtually. Like, if people don't watch virtually, that wouldn't be the make or break. People not going would.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the outcomes. And obviously, it's kind of hard to find this stuff out, especially because, I've never ran a convention.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, like, how much goes into actually running each one. Because, for instance, like, I may be thinking, like, oh, it's not as expensive as it actually is. Because, obviously, getting the convention center, having to get all that stuff set up, like, that's got to be expensive. But, like, it's just, it's such a weird spot. But I hope E3 is able to evolve. Because I don't want to see a world where E3 doesn't exist, because that'd be just weird to me. Especially because it's every year. Sorry, I don't mean to
go ahead.
keep speaking.
I was just going to give a fun fact because I went to look for the average cost to run E3, and all I could find out is that for a booth, if you want a booth at E3, they charge $1,000 a day.
Oof.
For internet access in a booth.
But yeah, I think... Oh, fuck, I lost my train of thought. Oh, okay, I remember. I don't want to see a world where E3 doesn't exist anymore, and it's because the fact of, like, I grew up with E3. It's something of, like, as much as, like, games don't appear at E3, E3 is still something special.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously, like companies like Bethesda, Square Enix, I'm trying to think of just, like, other small ones, like Kojima, or I know it's not Kojima, but...
Yeah.
It's like, companies like that, they don't have their own platform to do that. Obviously, Bethesda probably would, but I don't want to see fucking mobile games every year, so...
Mm-hmm. But
yeah,
the other thing too, and I don't mean to cut you off again, but like I think of the Microsoft presentation, that the last one I watched, where for Gears of War they had like the camera go underneath the stage, they had Keanu Reeves come out on stage for Cyberpunk. Like, you could make it to where, hey, we're still gonna have it digitally for everyone, but there's still that live experience. And for the Microsofts, the Sonys, like, that's the thing. It's like, hey, don't wait for your big game, but like the games where you want that kind of an oh shit moment, that's what you save for E3. When you want that kind of a presentation that's not just like, hey, here's our state of play, here's a trailer.
Yep. So... Sorry, I'm just trying to find a way if, like, I can wrap up just all my thoughts.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. It's just, it needs to evolve, but I hope it makes the right decisions too.
Yeah, and especially, I think, right now, obviously, with Knightley, I think that's what his name is.
Yep, Geoff Keighley.
Like, obviously, he's passionate about it. I think he's going to find a way to steer him in the right direction. It's just, he's got to get the support of the financial backers.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to do it, and I hope he's able to convince them.
Well, let's move on, Soapy. Let's go into this one. Might not be a long topic. It won't be as long as our E3 discussion. That was a really good discussion. But so we're talking Fortnite again, Soaps.
Whoa!
But do not worry. We're not talking about Epic versus Apple. This conversation, I mainly wanted to focus on Epic, because got this from The Verge. Jay Peters writes, Fortnite's next season arrives tomorrow, but if you're an iOS or Mac OS, you won't be able to play it. Epic announced today. And we're learning that's not all. Players on iPhone, iPad, and Mac will also lose crossplay, Fortnite's multiplayer, with non-Apple platforms. Epic confirms to The Verge. That means players on Apple platforms will be stuck on the current version of Fortnite, and they'll only be able to play with one another. Essentially, the legal fight with Apple will, in short order, split Fortnite into two. On PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, PC, and Android, Fortnite players will have access to all of the new content that's set to arrive with a potentially Marvel-themed new season. We have that to be confirmed now. Most new Fortnite season packs in significant changes, including updates to the map, new cosmetic, and new in-game rewards as part of the game's Battle Pass subscription. If you're a Marvel fan, it could be a particularly interesting one. On Apple devices, though, players will miss out on all of that new content. The game will basically be in stasis. And the thing I kind of wanted to ask with this, and my main central of this, is this going to be something, like, how's this going to play out? Is this going to hurt Apple more than it hurts Epic, or is this going to hurt Epic? Because to me, I can't decide what will happen, whether... Because if I'm on, let's say I'm playing on iOS, and I'm like, fuck it. Like, matches are taking too long to find people now because the player pool is less. I have a PlayStation sitting here. I'm just going to play on my PlayStation. And you switch over to that. Or is it going to be people stay on iOS, but it's basically well, you know what? It's still the same game. I'm just not going to play and quit Fortnite altogether. How do you see this affecting either Apple or Epic in terms of now the player base being split into two?
I mean, I don't really think it affects either company.
Okay.
Because obviously, you know, like there's Apple's missing out on the money that people would spend to get the Marvel skins. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's also Epic wouldn't be in a situation of where now they have to make the tough choice. How far ahead do they go without the Apple users? Mm-hmm. Because obviously, you know, they're going to keep pushing forward no matter what. But it's one of those things of like, okay, part of your player base is alienated. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you know, we have the court date in September.
Yep.
For at least
20th.
like part of it.
Yep.
So, like, obviously, you know, it's only like a month away. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those things of like, do you want to alienate a player base for a month? And that's something that Epic really needs to consider. Mm-hmm. Is like, okay, like obviously, I feel like Epic's probably going to pull some, like, in solidarity for our iOS brother and sisters, we're not going to release an update.
Why do you got to make them sound like Dutch? Dutch!
I mean, it's because I basically hate Epic at this point, so.
But go on, Dutch.
Yeah, like, it's... I just don't see that like this really affects either one, because obviously if people stop playing it on Apple, okay, congratulations, you're doing what Apple wanted. It's, you know, it's Epic's being punished.
You're doing what Apple wanted or what Epic wanted?
What Apple wants, because if Apple doesn't want Fortnite on there because Epic broke the rules, you're then doing what Apple wants of like, okay, cool. We can then reasonably take Fortnite off because the player base now is so small, there's no point in keeping it.
Yeah, good point. The thing that I wonder is, and my big bugaboo with this is, how many players will quit Fortnite because of this? Where let's say they just play on iOS, let's say they just have an iPhone, and that's it. I don't have an Android, I don't have a PlayStation or an Xbox or a computer that can run it. My phone was basically my lifeline for this. How many players are going to actually be like, fuck it, I'm done with Fortnite? And to me, I agree with you, and that would hurt Epic more than Apple, because Apple's like, whatever, we weren't making money off of it anyways, because Epic had their new transaction, and Epic then wouldn't, like, Epic I don't think is going to make money anyways, because if the game's staying the same, how many people are going to want to buy credits to buy old things in the game? There'll be people that do, but like, how many people will want to do that? So like I said, this one wasn't going to be super long. I just wanted to kind of throw it out there. It's interesting that now the Fortnite community is going to be split into two, and I can't wait to see what kind of effect this has in the Fortnite community and in the Epic Apple fight that we're currently looking at. But Soapy, the next one we're looking at is this one we were going to talk about on Thursday if you did not have to work that night. But I pulled it back from Thursday because I know I'm excited for this. I feel like you're going to be excited for this. And this is from Andy Robinson at VGC. It says, Xbox new studio is working on a third-person Perfect Dark game. Microsoft's new studio, The Initiative, is working on a third-person game set in the Perfect Dark universe. That's according to journalist Jeff Grubb, who reportedly made the claim during a podcast chat on Tuesday. If true, it would mark the Rare Shooter series' first installment since 2005's Perfect Dark Zero, which released alongside the Xbox 360. The Initiative is a new first-party Xbox game studio based in Santa Monica. The company was formed in 2018 and is comprised of a veteran team of creatives who previously worked on the series Tomb Raider, God of War, and Uncharted. Head of Xbox Phil Spencer has previously suggested that the studio could be working on a legacy IP long speculated to be Rare's spy shooter Perfect Dark, which would match the weapons, gadgets, and camera surveillance system gameplay described in a recent designer CV. Soapy, what are your thoughts? Perfect Dark could be coming back to us in the form of Xbox Series X.
I mean, dude, that's cool. Like, it's... Sorry if I don't sound, like, super enthusiastic. It's just, like... It's one of those things of where, like, okay, yes, it's coming back, but my main worry, and I'm not trying to make it sound like... I don't want to be the negative person. The only reason I ever get worried with when they bring back series like Perfect Dark, like when they tried to bring back, what was it called? I almost said Crash Bandicoot, but it's not that. I don't remember what the game was called. Okay. But basically, like, when they bring back old series, like, I just have this weird feeling of, like, okay, the expectations are going to be high because the last games were good. How much of that is going to affect how you view the new game? Like, obviously, I'm not trying to just shit on everything.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm worried of, like, okay, it's an older game, or, like, it's an older style of game. You're going to have the people that are just going to be looking for it to fail, to be like, see, this is why people shouldn't make old games.
Yeah.
That's where my worry comes in. Like, if the game's good, congratulations, you do you. But it's just, I'm worried that bringing back old game franchises more or less kind of opens a can of worms of, like, okay, if you fuck it up, like, then you're going to get people who are like, see, you never should have touched this game. You never should have done this. You never should have done that. I think it's better to leave, I don't want to say dead franchises, but, like, franchises that, like, they're no longer having games made of them. I think it's better to leave those resting rather than just, like, trying to bring it back.
The thing that I wonder with this is because the studio, like I mentioned, has worked on Tomb Raider, God of War, Uncharted. The thing that I'm excited for about this is not the gameplay side of it. It's more of like, okay, are we going to get... Because I played Perfect Dark for the N64. That was my jam with Perfect Dark. I didn't play the Perfect Dark in 2005 because I didn't have an Xbox 360. PlayStation Pony. You can see it behind me. But for me, I look at all those games. Tomb Raider, story-driven game. God of War, story-driven game. Uncharted, story-driven game. Yes, is their gameplay is good? Yes. But they are story-driven games. But at the story, those games are not as good as we remember them to be. And that, to me, is the most intriguing thing is, are we going to get a Perfect Dark game that has a compelling story, has the gameplay that we're used to from a Perfect Dark game with maybe some new twists in there? Because that's the thing. When a game comes back to it, you walk the fine line of, we got to make it feel like the original, but we also want to be innovative with what's going on as well. You don't want to just put out the same product that you did in 2000 and 2005. So, like, I saw this, and I'm just excited for it. I haven't seen a Perfect Dark game in a while. It's been 20 years since I have played one personally. It'll be nice to kind of play one. Again, however, like you said, there's that nervous of it of, are we going to fuck it up to the point where someone goes, probably shouldn't have made that?
Yeah, and I think it's a very probable outcome. And it's also just because there's people who do that just even if like remaking an old game,
Yeah.
like there have been times like when people remake old games and they actually work, you still get people who are like, nope, shouldn't have done it. So like obviously it's walking a fine line there, but I think if it turns out good, great.
Yeah.
Like I'm happy for Perfect Dark fans. If it doesn't, then that's kind of when like I've always been more on the side of like, okay, certain series have a lifespan. Like that'd be like, for instance, if did you ever play the Mirror Edge games?
No, I did not.
That'd be like if they tried to bring it back, which they tried to do, and newsflash, the newest Mirror Edge sucked. What a quinky dink, right? I mean, it's EA, so take that as you will.
Which I will say, when I was looking up the last thing we're going to talk about today, I did see a lot of people put Mirror Edge as an underrated game.
Yeah. So who knows?
But yeah, just mention that one. Wanted to get it out there. Soapy, because of time, what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about Godfall, but we're gonna push that to Monday. We'll talk about Godfall on Monday because it was Gamescom. It doesn't matter if we talk about it Monday or today. We're going to move on and do a segment, though, that we like to do called Shorty But a Goodie. We've got 3 on the docket for today. Kind of short news stories that want to give some mention to, but they don't take a lot of time. Soapy, the first one comes from Polygon ONS Good. NBA 2K21's player creation will include women, but not until next gen. Here's what it says. NBA 2K21 will, for the first time, include playable, user-created female avatars in its My Player suite of offering, but the feature won't join the game until the next generation edition launches for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. Visual Concepts, a 2K-owned studio that made the game, won't say more about the next generation version of NBA 2K21 until after the current edition launches next week. But it's another step in bringing the WNBA and women's players to full parity in the NBA 2K series modes and offerings. Last year, NBA 2K20 added the WNBA to its My League mode, allowing players the multi-season control, management, and development of the women's basketball team for the first time. Soapy, how big of a deal is this now that people can finally, yes, it's got to wait till next gen, but can finally, hey, I want to make a female avatar, I can go ahead and do that now.
EA beat them to it.
Yeah, EA did beat them to it.
Like, it's one of those things where, like, it's cool. Like, it's cool. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm all for representation in games. It's just like, okay, like it's already been done before.
Why wasn't this done sooner? Kind of a thing.
Yeah, of more or less of like, okay, you had the WNBA in your games. You could have just done it this gen. Unless there's like some super secret thing that we just never knew that programming female characters is hard or something.
I'll be completely honest. I don't want to be I wanted to say shitlord. Like you have been today, where it's like, I don't mean to be not excited about this, but here's my question about 2K21. Why is it coming out next week? And the only reason I say that is, what will make it drastically different than last year's game? And the reason I say that is, haven't had the draft yet. Haven't had free agency yet. So, like, for me, I almost wonder, like, why didn't 2K just say, hey, because of how the season is gone, there's probably going to be a December or later start. It sucks, but we're just going to scrap the PS4, Xbox 360 for this gen, and we're just going to launch it in basically December as a launch title for next gen.
Bold of you to assume 2K literally gives a single fuck about any of that.
Oh, I know. That's how I would think. That's how I would think.
It's literally 2K doesn't care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's one of the things of where it's like, I'm fine with 2K doing it. I don't care. And it's mostly just because it's like 2K is going to do whatever the hell 2K wants to do.
And they'll be like, oh, there'll just be a roster change when free agency and the draft happens. But it's like, to me, that's not the appealing thing. The appealing thing is when you get that sports game on day one and like playing the rosters for that season. You're getting ready for the next year. And it's like, we haven't even ended this basketball year, this basketball season, and we're already getting the next game. But it's cool. It's cool that now if you're, let's say, a girl that plays NBA 2K11 or 2K21, you can now feel represented. Like, hey, I can make my avatar look just like me. The next Shorty but a Goodie is, this one will be really short, Soapy. I don't know if you got a lot to say about it. We've got a date for Hitman 3. It's going to come out January 20th, a late birthday gift for myself, as my birthday is January 17th. Gifts will be accepted to the email, mosvellepodcasts at gmail.com. Release date has been revealed, January 20th, alongside free next-gen upgrade. How big is this, Soap, that's coming out in January of 2020?
Didn't we already know this?
No, this is from today. They posted this today.
I could have swore we knew it was coming out in January.
We knew it was coming out in January, but now we have an exact date. It's January 20th.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's cool. I'm not trying to sound like it. Like, I've realized, dude, I've been like the biggest fucking I've been like the most like negative Nancy today, dude.
Well, it's my fault. I got you in the mindset by bitching about your E-boy on MVP Sports Live. So I am sorry for putting you in this mood. The last Shorty but a Goodie, Microsoft assigns Bungie veteran to help ship Halo Infinite. This is from The Verge also. Sam Bylord, right? No, Byford, says Joseph Staten, a veteran of the Halo series, has returned to the franchise and will work on the campaign for the upcoming Halo Infinite. The news was first reported by Bloomberg, and Staten confirmed the move on Twitter. I'm thrilled to join at Halo to help them ship Halo Infinite, Staten said. As the project lead for the Infinite campaign, I'll be supporting the team's existing great leaders and empowering them to do their best work. Halo Infinite was planned to be launched alongside Xbox Series X in November, but was delayed into next year following an underwhelming demonstration during Microsoft Xbox Games Showcase. We have made the difficult decision to shift our release to 2021 to ensure the team has adequate time to deliver a Halo game experience to meet our vision, studio head Chris Lee said at the time. Soapy, I'll ask you, big deal, no deal, little deal? Middle deal?
I mean, big deal.
Okay.
I mean, this guy's worked with some of the greatest Halo games, and that's something that is really showing they're doubling down on trying to make this a good game. Because obviously, the track record for 343 Industries has been really shaky with Halo. Yeah. Obviously, I think a lot of people shit on Halo 4 and 5 more than they should. Like, I'm not saying they're like the best Halo games, but like there are people who are just like, it's different than what I know, so it's bad.
Yeah. No.
I think
there's different games where people are like that also.
Yeah, and I think this is showing them that, like, hey, we're willing to, like, pull out all the stops so that you guys enjoy this Halo.
Mm-hmm. See, now, here's the question I was going to ask that pondered in my head because I'm not the Microsoft guy. You are. You kind of have the mindset of, like, this is a good thing. We should be optimistic about this. My mindset and my question was, should this be an alarming sign of like, oh no, they have to pull in somebody from the past because something from the game might not be going right now? Like, should fans worry in that sense? Or should it be like you said, hey, he's worked on some of the great Halo games. This is just going to be good for the Halo story.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the worry, but it's one of those things of where it's like game companies do that everywhere. So it's not just like a random out of nowhere of like, oh, here we go. Here's a blah, blah, blah from Portugal that worked on like Street Fighter 1 or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm just randomly throwing out a thing. But like it's one of those things that I don't think it's bad bringing in old people, especially because, if it worked and you still think that can work, why not bring in the guys who know how to do it the best?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's bad to do that, especially because right now, like I said, it's people have a shaky opinion of 343 Industries, of where it's basically some people say, like, oh, they've only made terrible Halo games. There's people who are like, oh, well, they've made some of the good ones, but, it's always kind of missed that Halo feel. Now they're bringing in someone that worked with Bungie, the original creators of Halo, and they're basically going to be like, all right, this guy knows Halo. He's going to reel you guys in, so it feels like a fucking Halo game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like that's just the thing of I was just on the mindset yet again outside of Microsoft. Hey, is this a worry or a good thing? But Soapy, let's round out the show. We've got a patron question to end Friday and send us into the weekend. This is from PhillyShawn. He says, "What games from your childhood / adulthood that you played do you believe are criminally underrated, except for Burger King?" Except for the Burger King sneak game.
Damn it.
You can also submit your questions each and every month. Patreon.com/MVP vids. Our silver and above members get to submit their questions to each MVP Sports Live and MVP Games Live each and every month. So if you want to have your question answered also, you can check out patreon.com/MVP vids. Soapy, I'm going to go first on this one. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Because I've got one game to me that I'm like is criminally underrated, and I only feel like it's criminally underrated because I looked at the Metacritic for it, and I was like, really, this game only got a fucking 68, and that is Juiced. Juiced is probably one of the best racing games I have ever played, and I don't care what any of you say about it. Yeah, like this got, so a user score 7.5, Metacritic score of a 68 out of 100. This game was awesome. You could basically buy cars new or used. You get to soup them up. You basically get to not just race them in like circuits and sprints and things like that. This was a game that you got to race for keeps, Soapy. Race for keeps, where it's basically, hey, I'm going to try to take on this this boss character. We race him for pink slips. And it's like, you do not want to know. Dave actually stopped talking to me for a couple days because, so I own the game. Dave had a car on my memory card. It was a black and green Beetle with neon pink under it. Dave loved this thing, souped it up really good. It was a sprinter. It was a drag racing machine. Dave won so many races with it. And there was one time I'm like, I need a car that can win this drag race. And it is, Dave's car was the only one I had for it. And I remember it. I was racing, what was his name? It's the second boss in the game. He's the African-American character. I'm forgetting his name. He's right after TK. And before Maria. It was basically, I was racing him in a speed, and I'm like, I've got this, no problem. And I lost. And the emotion that went through me of shock of like, I just lost Dave's car. I lost Dave's car, and we're never going to get it back. I kid you not, Dave, my best friend, stopped talking to me for a couple days because I lost his car. This game, way better than the 68 that it has on Metacritic, and that's what I would say is my criminally underrated game from my childhood. Do you have a criminally underrated game?
I mean, there's a couple. One of them, I'm not exactly sure if it counts as underrated because it has a pretty good Metacritic score.
Okay.
It's just, I feel like I'm like the only human being in fucking existence to play the game.
What game?
Splinter Cell Conviction.
Okay. No, never played it.
Yeah.
For a second when you were leading that up, I'm like, okay. There's one other game I could think of with that, but no. Go ahead and talk about your Splinter Cell.
Yeah, so in my opinion, Splinter Cell Conviction is the best Splinter Cell game.
Okay.
Like, hands down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because it's basically the story of Sam Fisher getting revenge for what he believes is the murder of his daughter.
Okay.
and it's basically it ends up turning out. Spoiler alert: the game's fucking 11 years old. Get over it. But it turns out that the agency that he was working for is actually the ones who basically framed her death because they wanted an excuse to basically be like, "Oh, Sam's gone AWOL. We gotta kill him."
Okay.
Like, obviously, I'm not doing the story justice, but God, I just fucking loved that game. The other one.
Go ahead.
And this is the one that, like, I think this game actually just was shit, but I loved it as a kid. Aliens vs. Predator.
Okay.
Aliens vs. Predator was a fucking lit game, and I don't care what anybody tells me.
Okay. Now I'm trying to think. I never played Alien vs. Predator.
Man, let me tell you, Alien vs. Predator was the greatest goddamn game I played as a child.
Why so? Why so? For someone who hasn't played it, tell me.
You get to play as the motherfucking Predator, dude. Like, you just get to yeet javelins at people. There's not a single thing they can do about it. Obviously, small child me was more like, head got ripped off. That's what I fucking thought. But, like, it's just really fun. And I was actually really sad when, like, I basically didn't, like, when every time I've seen people talk about the game, they basically just say, like, holy shit, this game was terrible. I'm like, come on, man, my childhood.
Come on, man. You know what's one game I will say was, I don't know, maybe it was because of, like, eBay gave it a good score, Luke Games gave it a good score, Metacritic did not. I wasn't even going to bring this up, but I just thought of it while you were talking. Have you ever played Britney's Dance Beats or Dance Beat?
I hate to admit it, but yeah, I have.
Is it not a good game?
Yeah, it's not a good game, but
I was gonna say
it's something
I thoroughly
else.
enjoyed myself during that game. Where if you don't know what Britney's Dance Beat is, this is Britney Spears. She's young, beautiful, and talented. Her dance moves are as hot as her songs, and only the best dancers can join Britney Spears on her world tour. See if you have what it takes to back her up. Yet again, Metacritic 63, a user score of 5.6. Don't fucking care. 2 reasons why I love this game. It was fun to play, and I played a ton of it. Burnt a hole in my PS2 with it. Number 2, I shit you not. I don't remember the exact monster, but Monster Rancher, this game gave you a good monster. Because I remember using it every time. So if you have Britney's Dance Beat, you have Monster Rancher, you're playing it, boom, you get a good monster because this one had it. Also, what was his name? I gotta look it up. It was like Sean something. He was kind of like in the vein of Little Bow Wow, but he was like more of a chubbier black pop singer. He also gave a really good monster in Monster Hunter World. You wouldn't think about it because of the CD. But the last game I was going to mention, Soaps, I don't know how many you have. This game was good, but it was kind of like your Splinter Cell where I just didn't feel like it was. The only people I knew that talked about it were my group of friends, and it's Gauntlet Dark Legacy. Have you ever played Gauntlet Dark Legacy?
I've heard of it.
Oh, it's so good. It's so, like, it's basically what Diablo is. It's Diablo with, like, you can play as the Minotaur. Dave always played as the Minotaur. I always played as the Valkyrie. And it's basically, like, if you've played Diablo or have watched Diablo, then yes. Oh, also, Twitch checks, I opened it up. Dave says, prototype Beetle, bitch. Never forgive. He said it's up there. Like, PSO, I don't think is underrated, though. That's the problem. Yeah, but I fucked up his hunter. That's what he's saying. I'm trying to think. Where was I with Gauntlet Dark Legacy? Yeah, it was just a fun game. It was like I don't want to say the old Diablo, because I think Diablo was even out at that point. But yeah, it was fun. PlayStation 2. Do you have one last game, or did you have any other games that you think are criminally underrated?
I'm honestly right now, it's because I basically just for some reason my brain decided not to work.
You're just like, weekend, shut off.
Yeah, no, it's like I'm sitting here looking through like the old games on the Xbox store to see if like any of them jog my memory.
Let me ask you this.
And
Let me ask you this. You play Snowboard Kids?
No.
No, okay. That was one that I saw had a really good score, and I was like, shit, I thought that's one I was going to be able to use for my underrated games, because that's an N64 game that was fucking awesome. If you haven't played Snowboard Kids, go ahead and play it.
All right. So I guess my last game, even though I think once again this is more or less of just like I've never met people who have played this game before.
Okay.
You ever played Sid Meier's Pirates?
No.
Oh man, dude, what an experience!
So Sid Meier's Pirates.
Yeah, it's from the same guy who made the Civilization games.
Oh, I've played Civilization. Haven't played Sid Meier's Pirates.
Oh boy, man, is that game an experience? I make it sound like it's bad. It's actually a really good game.
Yeah.
It's just the ship combat, and by ship combat I mean when you board somebody and you duel them. That is the easiest goddamn thing I've done in my entire life. Like,
is it better,
I think I played that
better
game.
Than Sea of Thieves?
I mean, I'd be inclined to say yeah, but like just because basically it's kind of in a weird sense of where I don't know if you've played a Mount & Blade Warband or Bannerlord.
No.
Yeah, it's kind of in that same style of game where it's like you can travel between different ports and like take jobs. Like you can align with like a certain nation for their navy. Okay. So for instance, like you can side with Spain, you can go to France.
Yeah.
Do all that fun stuff. And with Sid Meier's Pirates, the only thing that sucked was that ship combat. And by ship combat, I basically mean it was just use fucking grape shot no matter where you are. You could be on the other side of the goddamn map, grape shot OP.
Was it worse than Assassin's Creed Odyssey ship combat?
Yes.
Because Odyssey had some bad ship combat. I'm just
because this is a game that was made in like 2001.
All right, no, good point. Good point.
Never mind, it was made in 2005.
Shit. So a little bit.
Man, dude, just to imagine.
Little bit younger than you thought it was.
Yeah. I mean, also this if this doesn't date how fucking old the game is besides the release date, it's literally 2 gigabytes in total.
Jesus Christ! Now games are like fucking
100
gigabytes. I was gonna say 80 gigabytes, but that even is like a small game. But thank you, PhillyShawn, for the question. Like we said, if you want to ask your questions, patreon.com/MVPvids, silver and above tier, get to do that each and every month, and that is gonna do it for MVP Games Live. Guess what, Soapy? Guess what? We are now a month in the books of MVP Games Live.
Oh, geez.
We have done 4 consecutive weeks of the show. Guess how many episodes we've missed?
2.
2. I don't remember the first one, though. I know we've missed
the first one. The first one. I don't remember the exact reason, but I remember we did miss it.
We did miss. I'm the same way, where I'm like, Soapy, I hope you remember why, because I don't.
I think it was. Okay, no, the first one was I was feeling like absolute garbage.
That's right.
And then the other one was I got forced to work.
That's right. But thank you guys for checking out the show. Remember, Discord, !Discord on Twitch. You can join the Discord. It's a great time. Link down below in the description on YouTube. Patreon.com/MVPvids. If you want to help support the channel, you can also throw us Twitch subs. That helps us out too, and Twitch subs get the same rewards as our bronze patrons. These will be on podcast services eventually. We thank you for your patience while we wait on our patients for them to get approved. Thank you guys for everything that you do. We will be back next week on Monday for more gaming news. And as always, have a good day, everybody.
Bye.